top-notch mindset that can empower you to become invincible. Increase your tolerance for life's errors. 01. A top-notch mindset that can empower you to become invincible. Increase your tolerance for life's errors. Original March 17, 2025. 8. The greatest difference between the strong and the weak lies not in their abilities, but in their tolerance for uncertainty. The strong view uncertainty as an opportunity, while the weak see it as a risk. Thus, when faced with uncertainty, the strong rely solely on the patterns of reality, analyzing opportunities within risks. The weak remain mired in their emotions, failing to manage risks amidst opportunities. Therefore, in the jungle of society, the strong are the hunters, while the weak are the fodder. A person often falls into negative emotions of anxiety and internal conflict, not because of failures in reality, but because their inner self is disturbed by uncertain outcomes. Everyone instinctively fears the unknown, and this fear of uncertainty can transform into a blind dependence on certainty. To escape the fear and discomfort brought by uncertainty, many become extremely averse to risk, leading all their decisions to prioritize stability and low risk in order to gain a sense of internal security and control. However, anyone who achieves significant results in reality is capable of solving open-ended problems in highly uncertain environments. Why do founders and executives of companies often achieve much higher revenues than the execution team, despite doing less? Because they typically deal with uncertainty issues, facing probabilities and risks, making correct strategic decisions. On the other hand, the execution teams usually work on tasks with high certainty, where the paths and methods for solving problems are very clear and defined. Therefore, if you aspire to become a true strong person and expert, you must continuously enhance your tolerance for uncertainty. The extent to which a person can withstand uncertainty is not determined by personal will, but by their tolerance for life's errors. The strong do not inherently ignore probabilities and risks. Rather, they build a higher tolerance for life's errors through sufficient abilities and resources, giving them stronger confidence, greater awareness, and more redundant time and space to hedge against unknown risks and probabilities of failure. So how can ordinary people increase their tolerance for life's errors? The first step is correct attribution to regain a sense of control. How a problem is defined determines how it is solved. Attributing problems internally to what one can control and influence through actions is the first step in enhancing tolerance for errors. Internal attribution does not mean self-blame. Absolutely avoid elevating the problem to an overall denial of oneself. Correct attribution views problems as temporary, solvable, and within the realm of subjective initiative, thus reclaiming a sense of control over the situation. When you feel you have sufficient understanding of any issue, find solutions, and possess enough control to reduce negative impacts and actual losses, your mental strength will increase, your determination will grow, and you will be able to manage your fear of uncertainty, freeing yourself from emotions to take action. The second step is to accumulate redundancy to hedge against probabilities and risks. For probabilities and risks that are beyond your control, you need sufficient redundancy to hedge against them. For instance, if you want to roll the highest possible number with dice after failing on the first try, what you need to do is not to study the construction of the dice, the force of your wrist, or the angle of the throw, but to quickly roll again. Because the outcome of rolling dice is completely random, your personal actions and subjective initiative have almost no impact on the result. Therefore, the only way to combat single-instance randomness is to increase the overall number of attempts, meaning to try multiple times. In reality, every attempt incurs a corresponding cost, so the purpose of accumulating redundancy is to ensure you always have another chance and confidence to try again, comprehensively building up resources such as funds, abilities, connections, etc., that can provide a safety net for your life, thus ensuring you have the qualification to stay in the game. The third step is to leverage failure to benefit from it. Failure is merely a subjective feeling. Objectively speaking, there is no failure, only feedback. If you perceive the outcome as failure, it will bring you down. If you view the outcome as an opportunity, it can lead to your rebirth. The world's top tennis superstar, Federer, has has an average scoring rate of only 54%, which means he has just a 4% advantage over each point. Yet, this 4% advantage is enough for Federer to win over 80% of his matches, establishing him as a tennis legend. Because the outcome of a tennis match depends on games and sets, it is a process of gradually accumulating advantages. Even if each point has only a 4% slight winning rate, as the number of rallies increases, the advantage is sufficient to tip the whole match in his favor. Traditional education instills in us a deep-rooted fear of losing points, so we always try to pass through without any effort. However, the essence of life is a probability game, where both victory and defeat are the norms. They merely serve as levers for growth. What we need to do is not to fight for every point, but to leverage trial and error experiences to enhance the winning probability of key points, using localized failures to secure the overall victory of the system. And that embodies the essence of anti-fragility. We strive to create order, yet the result often backfires with chaos. We always seek stability, yet it is often destroyed by risk. The first step in becoming stronger is to accept the impermanence of fate, the twists and turns of life, and the unpredictability of existence. Setbacks and failures cannot be avoided or sidestepped. However, anything that does not kill you will ultimately make you stronger. When you gradually create a higher tolerance for errors in your life, you will be able to thrive under fluctuations, randomness, chaos, pressure, risks, and uncertainties, like a spark in the wilderness, igniting a blaze that sweeps all before it.